The streets of New York City hummed with energy, alive with the hustle and bustle that defined human civilization. It was here, among the swirling crowd of commuters, tourists, and locals, that Vara made her first foray into the human world. Her eyes, wide with a mix of skepticism and amusement, flickered from one scene to the next. Hot dog vendors arguing over pitches, street performers dancing to unheard rhythms, businessmen and women rushing past without a second glance. Tom, a cultural liaison from the Department of Interstellar Relations, was tasked with guiding Vara through her initial encounter with Earth. He approached her with a friendly smile, extending a hand which she stared at, puzzled, before shaking it hesitantly. "Welcome to Earth, Vara," Tom began, trying to sound as welcoming as possible. "I hope your journey was comfortable?" Vara looked around, still absorbing the sights and sounds. "It was enlightening," she replied, her voice tinged with laughter. "I did not expect such chaos." Tom chuckled. "Yeah, New York can be overwhelming at first, but there's a method to this madness. Let me show you around." They started walking down Fifth Avenue, the buzz of the city enveloping them. Vara's attention was caught by a group of children chasing pigeons in a park. "Why do they chase those creatures?" she asked, genuinely curious. "They're just playing," Tom explained. "Children find joy in the simplest activities. It's part of growing up here." "Interesting," Vara mused, her tone softening as she watched the scene, her earlier amusement giving way to intrigue. As they continued, Tom pointed out various landmarks and explained their historical and cultural significance. Vara listened intently, her earlier laughter replaced by an earnest desire to understand. When they reached Times Square, the screens and skyscrapers lit up the sky, and Vara stopped in her tracks. "This is quite spectacular," she admitted, looking around in awe. Tom smiled, pleased with her reaction. "This is the heart of the city. Times Square is a crossroads for people from all over the world, a place where different cultures meet." Vara nodded, absorbing every word. "And what about you, Tom? How do you find living among all this diversity?" "I love it," Tom replied without hesitation. "Every day is different. You meet people from all walks of life, each with their own stories. It's never boring." As they made their way towards a quieter street, Vara seemed more at ease. The initial shock of the new environment was fading, replaced by an emerging appreciation. "Humans are indeed fascinating," she said thoughtfully. "Your world is so vibrant, so full of life." Tom looked at her, a hint of pride in his eyes. "It takes some getting used to, but maybe you'll come to love it as well." Vara smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "Perhaps I will, Tom. Perhaps I will." Their first day together ended with a quiet dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city skyline. As the sun set over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Vara and Tom shared stories from their respective worlds. It was the beginning of a journey neither of them expected, filled with potential and promise. Chapter 2. An Unexpected Guide. The next morning, under a sky washed clean by the night's rain, Tom met Vara outside her temporary residence, a meticulously furnished apartment overlooking the East River. The city appeared serene, a stark contrast to the previous day's chaos. "Ready for another day?" Tom asked, holding 2 cups of coffee, one of which he handed to Vara. She accepted the cup, her fingers brushing his briefly. "Yes, I think I am starting to enjoy your human coffee," she said with a hint of amusement in her voice. Tom grinned. "Great. Today, I thought we could explore some of New York's quieter spots, places where you can really feel the city's soul." They started at the High Line, walking along the elevated park that cut through buildings old and new. Vines and flowers hugged the railings and the pathway, creating a green artery through the urban landscape. "This is quite peaceful," Vara observed, taking a deep breath. "It's hard to believe it's part of the same city." "It used to be a railway line," Tom explained, "repurposed to be a park. It's one of the projects that shows how the city evolves, adapts. We humans like to keep pieces of the past, turn them into something new and beautiful." As they walked, Vara seemed more at ease, her earlier wariness replaced by a growing fascination. "Tom, what made you choose this job?" she inquired, genuinely curious about his motivations. "I've always been fascinated by the stars," Tom replied, his gaze drifting upwards. "The thought of meeting someone from another planet, learning about their culture. It was the ultimate dream, and here I am, living it." Vara smiled, her eyes reflecting the gardens around them. "And are all humans as welcoming as you?" Tom laughed. "We try to be. Like anywhere, there are all kinds of people. But I believe most of us are curious, willing to learn about others." Their path took them through Greenwich Village, where they stopped at a small cafe renowned for its artisanal pastries. As they sat at a corner table, Tom pointed out the various artworks adorning the walls, local artists' depictions of city life. "This neighborhood has always been a haven for artists, writers, musicians," Tom noted. "It's a place where many subcultures have thrived." Vara listened intently, her earlier reservations giving way to a deeper appreciation. "Your culture is rich, layered. I judged too quickly." "It's easy to do," Tom admitted. "I might have done the same if I visited Zorax." They shared a smile, an unspoken acknowledgement of their budding friendship. After the cafe, they visited a local bookstore, where Vara marveled at the stacks of books. "We have digital archives," she said, "but nothing like this physical collection. Books have a special place in our hearts," Tom explained. "Each one is a world unto itself, a story waiting to be told." As the day faded into evening, they found themselves at a small jazz club, the music soulful and full of life. Sitting close in the dim light, Vara felt the music resonate within her, the human expressions of joy, love, and even sorrow. "Music is another way we share our stories," Tom said, noticing her entranced state. Vara turned to him, her expression soft. "I am beginning to see why," she replied. "There is much to admire here, much to learn." Their day ended with the city lights twinkling like stars around them, the music a gentle echo in their minds. Tom and Vara's journey had only just begun, but already, it was clear that their worlds, once so distant, were drawing closer with each shared experience. Chapter 3: Learning the Ropes. As the sun crested over the skyline of Manhattan, Tom and Vara found themselves on the edge of the Brooklyn Bridge, ready to start another day of exploration and discovery. The morning air was brisk, carrying with it the promise of the bustling day ahead. "Today," Tom announced with a flourish, "we dive deeper into the heart of the city. We're going to experience New York through its everyday heroes, the people who make this city run." Vara, dressed in a light jacket that fluttered slightly in the morning breeze, looked at him with a curious tilt of her head. "Everyday heroes?" "Yeah, like the firefighters, the street artists, the small business owners. These are the people who don't often make the headlines, but their stories are the backbone of this city," Tom explained, leading the way across the bridge with confident strides. Their first stop was a local fire station, where they were greeted by Captain Martinez, a robust man with a hearty laugh and a welcoming smile. "Welcome to our humble station," he boomed, extending a hand to Vara, who shook it, impressed by his warmth. "Captain Martinez here has been with the NYFD for over 20 years, Tom said, introducing Vara to the firehouse's routines. As they toured the station, Vara was shown the equipment, trucks, and even allowed to slide down the fireman's pole, which brought a delighted laugh from her. "This is all quite remarkable," she admitted, looking around at the firefighters preparing for their day. "The commitment to others, it's admirable. Service to the community is our top priority," Captain Martinez added, puffing up slightly with pride. Leaving the firehouse, Tom and Vara meandered through the streets, stopping next to watch a street artist creating a vibrant mural on a previously blank wall. "Art is another form of service, in a way," Tom mused. "It beautifies the city, sparks conversation, and sometimes even brings about change." Vara watched the artist, a young woman with streaks of paint on her cheeks, as she transformed the wall into a splash of colors and shapes. "It's beautiful," Vara said, the sincerity in her voice evident. "Would you like to try?" the artist offered, handing Vara a spray can after noticing her interest. With a tentative hand, Vara added a small star to the corner of the mural. There, a piece of Zorax in New York, she joked, stepping back to admire her work. As the day progressed, Tom took Vara to a small, family-run bakery known for its New York bagels. The owner, a kindly old man named Mr. Liu, welcomed them in with open arms. Bagels fresh from the oven, he announced, presenting a tray filled with steaming, golden brown bagels. Vara tasted one, her eyes lighting up at the flavor. "Tom, this is delicious," she exclaimed, enjoying the warm, chewy texture. "It's all about the boiling before baking," Mr. Liu explained, sharing his technique. "Gives them that perfect chewiness." Their final stop for the day was at a bustling community center where Vara got to see a local dance group practice. The dancers moved with a grace and energy that captivated her, each step and leap a testament to their dedication and passion. "This city," Vara said as they left, her voice reflective, "is more complex and beautiful than I could have imagined. And the people, they are truly its heart." "Yes, they are," Tom agreed, smiling at her. "And now you're becoming a part of it, too." As they walked back towards the subway, the sun setting behind the buildings casting long shadows on the pavement, Vara felt a deep sense of connection. Not just to Tom, but to the city and its inhabitants. New York was no longer a strange, chaotic place, but a home filled with stories, laughter, and the warmth of human, and now interstellar connection. Chapter 4. The Festival of Lights ****. The gentle chill of the evening air was beginning to set as Tom and Vara made their way to one of New York's most awaited annual events, the Festival of Lights, held in the sprawling expanse of Central Park. Multicolored lights hung from the trees, and lanterns floated on the lake, casting a magical glow over the area. "This festival celebrates the diverse cultures of the city," Tom explained, guiding Vara through the throngs of people. "Each light represents a community, a story, a part of New York." Vara's eyes sparkled with the reflection of the lights as she took in the scene. "It's like a tapestry of lights, each thread woven from different backgrounds. It's beautiful," she remarked, her voice filled with wonder. As they walked, they passed by various stalls, each representing different cultural heritages with food, crafts, and music. Tom led Vara to a stall draped in fabrics of vibrant hues, where they were greeted by an elderly man with a warm, inviting smile. "Welcome," the man said, his hands gesturing to the garments hanging behind him. "These are traditional fabrics from my homeland, India. Each pattern tells a story." Vara touched the fabric gently, admiring the intricate designs. "What story does this one tell?" she asked, pointing to a bright, floral pattern. "That," the man began, his face lighting up, "represents the festival of spring, a celebration of renewal and life." They purchased a small, handcrafted lantern, and as the man packaged it, he shared stories of festivals back in his country. Tom and Vara listened intently, drawn into the narratives of faraway celebrations. Continuing their journey through the festival, they approached a stage where a group was performing traditional Korean drumming. The rhythmic beats filled the air, resonant and powerful. Tom and Vara stopped to watch, the vibrations of the drums almost tangible in the cool night air. "Do you have anything like this in Zorax?" Tom asked, leaning closer to speak over the drumbeats. Vara shook her head, her eyes still fixed on the performers. "We have music, but nothing so communal. It's more individual, contemplative." As the performance concluded, the crowd erupted in applause, and Tom and Vara joined in, their claps mingling with those of the hundreds around them. "Let's try some food," Tom suggested, leading her to a nearby food truck festooned with lights and banners. They ordered plates of falafel and gyro, savoring the flavors that were as vibrant as the festival itself. They found a quiet spot on a small hill, overlooking the lake where lanterns floated gently on the surface. Sitting side by side, they ate and talked about everything from human culinary arts to Zorsian food rituals. As they spoke, Vara turned to Tom, her expression thoughtful. "Tom, I've laughed at so much since I arrived," she said, But I've also learned. Tonight, I feel a part of something larger. Thank you for bringing me here. Tom smiled, touched by her words. I'm glad you feel that way. This is what I hoped you'd see. The beauty of our diversity. The connections that light us up. Under the soft glow of the lanterns, they shared a quiet moment. The noise of the festival a distant hum. Then, impulsively, Vara reached out, taking Tom's hand in hers. The gesture was simple, yet it bridged worlds. Tom looked at her, his heart skipping a beat, and as he squeezed her hand gently, their eyes met, and they shared their first, tentative kiss. The lights around them seemed to brighten. The festival's joy amplified in that small, shared intimacy. As they pulled apart, the world hadn't changed, but their understanding of it, and each other, had deepened immeasurably. Chapter 5: Minor Misunderstandings. After the festival, Tom and Vara's friendship had taken a delicate yet profound turn. However, as is often the case with two beings from vastly different worlds, not all was smooth sailing. A visit to the Metropolitan Museum of Art highlighted just how wide the gap between their perceptions could be. Inside the grand halls filled with centuries of human art, Tom was eager to show Vara some of Earth's finest creations. "This is Van Gogh's Starry Night," he explained, standing before the iconic painting. "It's considered one of the greatest masterpieces in Western art." Vara tilted her head, studying the swirling, tumultuous skies. "It is chaotic," she remarked, not hiding her bewilderment. "On Zorax, such art would convey turmoil. Is that what this artist felt?" Tom, surprised by her reaction, tried to explain. "Well, yes, but it's also about beauty in that chaos. It's highly valued here for its emotional depth and its beauty." "Emotional depth," Vara repeated, sounding unconvinced. The cultural chasm suddenly seemed wider than either of them had anticipated. As they moved through the museum, each artwork prompted a discussion, with Tom championing human emotional expression and Vara responding with Zorasian logic and restraint. The strain grew palpable when they reached the modern art section. "Why would one just splash paint randomly and call it art?" Vara asked, genuinely puzzled as she gazed at a Jackson Pollock piece. "It's not random, it's expressive," Tom countered, his tone defensive. "It's about the act of creation, the artist's movement, their feelings poured out onto the canvas." Vara nodded, but her eyes were distant. "I see. There is much I still need to learn about human expressions." The day ended with a sense of mutual puzzlement. Walking back through Central Park, the air between them felt thicker, laden with unasked questions and half-explained theories. "Tom," Vara finally broke the silence, "I apologize if my comments seemed dismissive today. Your art, your culture, it's just so different from anything I know." Tom sighed, running a hand through his hair. "No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't expect you to see things the way I do. Maybe I'm trying too hard to impress you with our culture." They stopped walking, facing each other. "I want to understand," Vara said earnestly, "and I appreciate all you've shown me. Perhaps I need more time." "Yeah, and maybe I need to be more patient," Tom admitted. He offered her a small smile. "How about we try something else tomorrow? Something less cultural, more fun." Vara returned his smile, relieved. "I would like that, Tom. Perhaps something that involves less interpretation." "Deal," Tom replied, his spirits lifting. "Let's just enjoy being in each other's company, without the pressure of having to understand everything." They resumed walking, their steps lighter than before. As they left the park, they passed by a street performer playing lively tunes on a saxophone. Without a word, Tom took Vara's hand and led her into an impromptu dance right there on the sidewalk. Laughter spilled from them both, echoing off the park trees and out into the bustling city night. It was a simple, joyous moment, one that needed no explanation, no cultural translation. Just two beings, finding their rhythm in the vast, complicated universe they shared. Chapter 6: Reconciliation and Realization. The following day brought with it a renewed sense of camaraderie between Tom and Vara as they agreed to set aside their cultural differences and simply enjoy each other's company. The day's plan was simple: a visit to Coney Island, a place of unabashed fun and quintessential human amusement. As they arrived, the lively atmosphere of the amusement park was infectious. Bright colors, the sounds of laughter and screams from roller coasters, and the smell of popcorn and cotton candy filled the air. Tom bought them both a swirl of cotton candy, handing one to Vara with a playful grin. "Try this," he urged. "It's pure sugar. Very human, very fun." Vara took a tentative bite, her face lighting up with surprise and delight. "It's fluffy," she exclaimed. "It melts in the mouth." Tom laughed, enjoying her reaction. "Wait until you try the rides." They started with the Ferris wheel, climbing into one of the enclosed cabins. As it ascended, Vara pressed her face against the glass, marveling at the sprawling view of the ocean and the beach below. "This is incredible, Tom. I can see why humans find joy in such things," she said, her previous day's frustrations forgotten amid the aerial view of Coney Island. "Yeah, sometimes you just need to look at things from a different perspective," Tom replied, watching her with a smile. After the Ferris wheel, they dared each other to try all the classic rides, from the bumper cars to the famous Cyclone roller coaster, where Vara's screams mingled with laughter. Each ride seemed to bring them closer, bridging the gap that had formed the day before. Sitting at a bench with a hot dog in hand, a must-have according to Tom, Vara seemed contemplative. "Tom, yesterday at the museum, I was overwhelmed. But today, I feel I am truly experiencing your world." Tom nodded. The sand cool beneath their feet. "Tom," Vara started hesitantly, "I want to apologize for yesterday. I realize now that understanding comes not just from observing but from experiencing. From feeling what you feel." Tom stopped and faced her, his expression sincere. "And I need to remember that feeling things differently doesn't mean better or worse. It's just different. What matters is this," he gestured between them, "us learning from each other." Vara reached out, her hand brushing his. "Yes, that is what matters." They continued their walk, the tension fully dissolved now, replaced by a mutual understanding and respect. At one point, Tom initiated a playful run along the water's edge, and Vara joined him, the two racing each other until they fell onto the sand, laughing breathlessly. Lying there, watching the stars begin to twinkle in the twilight sky, Vara turned to Tom. "Your world, it's beautiful, and so vast. Yet you find happiness in the simplicity of things like cotton candy and sandy races. And you bring a new perspective to it, one that makes it even more special," Tom replied, his voice low and full of emotion. As they sat up, the air between them charged with an unspoken connection, Vara leaned over and kissed Tom gently. It was a kiss of gratitude, of acceptance, and of something deeper that had begun to sprout between them. A kiss that spoke of shared futures and shared worlds. The night ended with them walking back to the subway, hand in hand, their hearts light and hopes high, each step a testament to their growing bond. Chapter 7: The Acceptance. Days turned into weeks, and the city's pulse became a rhythm that Vara grew accustomed to. By now, her laughter at human ways was less a mockery and more an expression of her own delight and amusement. Tom remained her constant companion, and together they discovered more of New York's layers. On one particular afternoon, they volunteered at a neighborhood garden project in Brooklyn. It was a sunny day, warm and perfect for working outdoors. Tom handed Vara a pair of gloves and gestured to the rows of overgrown plants. "All right, first lesson in community gardening. We've got to clear this area before we plant anything new. Think you can handle that?" he asked. Vara slipped on the gloves, her expression determined. "It's physical labor, isn't it? I think I can manage," she replied with a playful smirk. Together, they dug, weeded, and prepped the soil. Nearby, local volunteers exchanged tips and laughter, making the atmosphere light and welcoming. Vara, who had once questioned the necessity of human gatherings, began to see the value in these communal efforts. She worked shoulder to shoulder with Tom, sharing banter as they labored. "Why do humans garden this way when you could simply automate it?" Vara asked, tossing a bundle of weeds into a compost pile. Tom leaned on his spade, wiping his brow. It's not just about efficiency. It's about people coming together. Doing something with your hands, seeing the results, you feel connected to the earth, to each other. It's rewarding. Vara nodded, her gaze thoughtful. On Zorax, we've forgotten the value of such connection. Everything is optimized, efficient, but solitary. After several hours, they stood back to admire their progress. The once wild patch of earth now looked ready for new life. A few volunteers clapped and cheered, and Tom nudged Vara with his elbow. Not bad for your first day. Vara grinned. I can see why you humans find this satisfying. It's grounding. Later, they walked to a nearby community center, where an impromptu cultural exchange was taking place. People shared food, music, and stories from their countries of origin. Vara found herself immersed in human traditions, not as an outsider laughing at the strangeness, but as a participant. At one point, she and Tom joined a circle where an elderly woman recited a poem from her childhood. The verses spoke of journeys, of finding home far from home. Vara listened intently, her hand brushing Tom's as she leaned closer. It reminds me of what I've found here, she whispered. A place among you, despite my differences. Tom smiled softly. You've brought a lot to us too, Vara. More than you realize. As the evening wore on, Tom suggested they step outside for some air. They found a quiet bench under a large tree, the noise of the gathering fading into the background. The stars above were faint, blurred by the city lights, but still visible if one looked hard enough. Vara spoke first. Tom, do you think your world could truly accept someone like me? Not just a visitor, but a part of your society. Tom looked at her, his gaze steady. You're already becoming part of it. People see you for who you are. Curious, open-minded, willing to connect. That's what matters. And you've opened my eyes too. She reached for his hand, her expression sincere. I never thought I'd feel so at home on a planet so different from my own. He squeezed her hand gently, their fingers intertwining. And I never thought I'd be this close to someone from another world. But here we are. Under that quiet canopy of leaves, a new chapter of their relationship began to unfold. No longer was it simply about human culture or alien observation. It was about the bond they had built, one that now felt as solid and real as the ground beneath their feet. Chapter 8: Unity in Diversity. The days blended into weeks, and the initial awkwardness between Vara and humanity had long since faded. By now, she wasn't just a visitor. She was part of the community. People in the neighborhood recognized her, and she had even started volunteering at the local cultural center, teaching children about Zorax's unique art forms and helping organize events that brought diverse groups together. Tom was always by her side, supporting her efforts. He loved watching her confidence grow as she took on more responsibilities. On a breezy Saturday morning, they stood together outside the community center, arranging chairs and setting up displays for an international food festival. Vara's enthusiasm was infectious as she handed out flyers to passers-by. Today is going to be amazing, she said, her tone light and full of energy. We have dishes from over a dozen cultures, performances from several continents, and even a small interstellar section. Interstellar section, huh? Tom teased. Isn't that just your cooking station? Vara laughed, bumping him lightly with her elbow. It's still technically interstellar cuisine, isn't it? As people started to arrive, Vara and Tom mingled, welcoming visitors and ensuring that the event ran smoothly. The air was filled with the aroma of spices and grilled meat, the sound of laughter, and the rhythmic beats of drums from a dance troupe performing on stage. It was a vibrant celebration of unity, and Vara couldn't help but smile as she watched families, friends, and strangers coming together. During a quiet moment, Tom and Vara retreated to the corner of the festival grounds, sitting under the shade of a large oak tree. Tom passed her a plate with a variety of dishes, some spicy, some sweet. Vara sampled each one, her eyes lighting up at the range of flavors. You humans really do know how to celebrate through food, she said between bites. It's like each dish tells a story. That's the beauty of it. Tom replied. Every culture, every person brings something to the table, literally. And today you've brought your own story into the mix. Vara looked at him thoughtfully. It's strange. I came here to observe, maybe even critique. I didn't expect to feel so connected, so at home. You made it that way, Tom said, his voice gentle. You opened up. You let yourself be part of it. As the day turned into evening, the festival drew to a close. Vara and Tom walked hand in hand, the string lights strung across the festival grounds casting a warm glow. The crowd had thinned, and the few remaining attendees were busy packing up or chatting quietly. Tom, Vara said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. I've been thinking. When I first arrived, I looked at your world with amusement, even a bit of disdain. But now I see its beauty, its strength in diversity. I want to stay here, really stay, and be part of this world with you. Tom stopped walking and turned to face her. You mean that? You'd really stay here? Permanently? Vara nodded, her expression steady. Yes, this is where I feel like I belong. He smiled, relief and joy spreading across his face. I'd be honored to have you here, Vara. This city wouldn't be the same without you. Their fingers intertwined, and they continued their walk, the sounds of the city blending into the background. Vara no longer felt like an outsider looking in. She was part of the picture now, a thread in the intricate tapestry of human life. As they passed under a glowing archway of lights, Tom leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to Vara's temple. She tilted her head toward him, her eyes soft and warm. In that moment, it wasn't just their hands or their voices that connected them. It was the understanding they had built, the shared experiences that had brought them to this point. Vara glanced at the vibrant streets ahead, full of life and possibilities. I think I finally understand what it means to be human, she said, her voice quiet but resolute. And what's that? Tom asked, his tone equally soft. To love, she replied simply. They continued walking together into the night, ready to face whatever came next. Together.